My undercover story for the week, undercover was, or the month was, I think I actually started back in March, and I really didn't see a whole lot of news about this, and I found out just a few weeks ago. So the story is this: in early March, there was an individual by the name of Dominic Thrasher. He's a local author out of Bill City, Michigan, which is a town north of Lansing. For those who don't know, it's in the diocese of Saginaw. So he had visited a school, elementary school, attached to St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Church there, and read one of his books. This book of his that he had wrote was called The Adventures of Cece and Sheriff. These are about some animals, right? And he read it to preschool children. A few days later, and this is March 13th, Father Thomas Held went on to the parish's Facebook page and said this. He says, a guest who does not represent the values of our Catholic faith had read a book to children. And he says that a teacher was in the room at the whole time and that a new vetting system would be put in place. Okay. Now, the story is that the reason why Father even went on social media and said this is because there was concern from some parents because this Dominic Thrasher is a man who is civilly married to a person of the same gender. All right. So you can kind of guess what happens next. The gays come out, right? They're protesting outside the church. They're protesting outside of mass. They're holding up these sodomy signs outside the Catholic Church. They're bullying Father Thomas Hale. They're demanding that he resign. They're demanding an apology. All the things that this group typically does
Bastions
when
of
they're
tolerance.
yeah, they're so tolerant and they're so offended, and their sensibilities. And so, and there was surprisingly, there's a lot of people at this St. Joseph Parish parishioners who were also upset at Father Hale for even saying this. So there's both sides. You had people supporting him. They had put a whole website up, support Father Hale. They had testimonials. They had just a lot of people supporting him. But on the other side, you had businesses in the town taking a stand against Father. Everybody wants him to resign. There's a lot of outrage. Calls to the school. They even canceled elementary school. 92 students couldn't go to school one day because of the outrage about Father Thomas Hill saying something that was true. It was true that this Dominic person does not, he's living a life that does not represent the values of the Catholic Church. This man could not hold a teaching job in a school, yet he was invited into a school to read his book. Again, I would say his book apparently doesn't have, it's about animals. So the book itself didn't have anything to do with sodomy, apparently, but it was the person. So I really couldn't figure out where was the lie in what Father said, that this man does not represent the values. But despite um, the parishioner support, despite the fact that the diocese and Bishop Gruss was behind him and supporting him, it was on March 16th when we heard, April 16th, when we heard that Father Thomas Hill decided to resign because he said he had come to the decision that it would be impossible for him to bring unity to the parish. Now, here's my thing. This is what really upsets me about the story. Why I really think it was undercovered. It makes me tremendously upset that once again, Catholics get the short side of the stick just because we want to proclaim the truth. Anytime these people, especially the gay lobby, the homosexuals, the people with these mental diseases, again, church teaches this is a psychological origin of this thinking what is unnatural is natural. Anytime these people make all this noise, somehow we lose. I don't care if it's this case with Father Thomas Held, and shame on him for giving in, because what it says is that anytime we tell the truth and they get offended, they can make noise, they can protest, they can go outside of a Catholic church and hold up their flag, and we have to give in to their demands. This is terrorism. This is psychological terrorism. And it's happening too much. I don't care if it's these men wearing women face, pushing our girls outside of sports, pushing them outside of scholarships, canceling their scholarships, or it just happens everywhere, and every time Catholics we lose. And so it really makes me upset. The father, my father Hale gave in, and I don't know how is he supposed to keep the unity of his parish together when he didn't tell a lie. Why can't we stay together based upon the truth? Why does a lie have to push him out? And so it makes me very, very upset that time and time again we lose and Satan wins. And Satan, the demonic spirit in Satan, he's taking a hold of this Saint Joseph parish. These I don't know how they keep this whole thing together based upon a lie. I really don't. But you guys are in Michigan. What's your thoughts?
Go ahead, Bobby.
I mean, you might have a lot more to say than I do, Kyle, but every time you would say his name, I thought would be, why can't he just have been Father Held? No, like, because how do you spell his name? Is it?
I think it's Held.
Yeah, just
Father Held. Okay. I thought it was Father Held. Like, really, throw a gnaw on there, and that really makes it.
Or Father held fast to the faith.
Bravo, right? I mean, it sounds like he held fast, right? If I heard the whole thing right, or like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think he resigned, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he resigned. Yeah, April 16th. He gave in. He was holding on, and then he resigned.
Father let go now. It's because he let go. The thing is, the tragedy of the whole thing is bullies take note. Bullies are very good observers. So
yeah,
it works. All you got to do is stand up against your priest as a parishioner and he'll resign. So if you don't like Father such and such, I just hope other priests, if you're watching this or if you've been following that Father Held story, don't even let your own parishioners bully you out of your own parish. You're the shepherd, they're the sheep. And to whom else shall they go? So if you're going to hold fast to the faith and live out your namesake as Father Held and you hold fast, then there's Protestant churches they can go to if they don't want to be Catholic. So,
well, especially too, because he had the bishop's support. I mean, I don't know. I think it's Bishop Gruss or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how. Again, a lot of these bishops, we don't know if they're moderate, liberal, conservative, blah blah blah, whatever. But we do know, at least ostensibly, that from their own diocesan statements, that he had the bishop's support. From what I've seen, I wish the bishop would have been a little more vocal in supporting him. I mean, the bishop kind of came out after the resignation and said, oh, it's kind of unfortunate that, unity couldn't be resolved, especially in the Easter season. I would have been a little more heavy-handed than that, and I would have said, I would have encouraged that priest to stay and given him even more support and said, hey, look, these are the teachings of the Holy Catholic Church, and they cannot be transgressed, and it doesn't matter if you belong to this parish for 25 years. It doesn't matter. You're either Catholic or you're not. You either believe the faith or you don't. And, we're not trying to, beat anyone over the head here. We're just, what that priest said, that apology letter, I heard it. And it was very, very mild. He didn't say anything about, homosexuals or sodomites or anything like that. He didn't use any inflammatory language. He was very, very, corporate speech, it was fine. It was very charitable. He could have been even more heavy-handed. And that probably would have been okay. But for what it was fine. And he said, look, he was very mild. He said that, there was this guy, this Thrasher guy, this gay author, He wasn't alone with the children. He wasn't trying to claim that he was trying to, like, groom them or anything. He wasn't trying to say that he was trying to touch them. He just was trying to say there was a teacher there to ensure that this guy didn't go off the rails and say anything wacky about his own personal sexual proclivities. That's really all he was trying to say there. And he, like you said, David, he didn't say anything untrue. He's like, look, here's a man that I didn't know who he was, and somehow he got invited, and it comes to turn out that he's living a lifestyle that's not in accord with Catholic teaching, and that doesn't really have any place here, and we shouldn't be inviting these type of people in, and we're going to ensure that this doesn't happen again. I mean, if this is, I would say if this would have happened in the Lansing diocese, if this would happen in the Detroit diocese, it would have went over fine. But there's something weird going on in Saginaw. Saginaw has all these weird stories always coming out of it, both liberal and conservative, that don't make any sense at all. So this doesn't surprise me coming out of that geographical location.
Yeah, and and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial or put on the tinfoil hat or anything. That's not what the show is about. But in this situation, he had the support of the bishop. He said or did nothing wrong. And my thing is this: I'm good friends with many priests who, after the Dallas Charter came out in 2002, which a lot of priests think was an overcorrection to the sex abuse scandal, because it was basically destroy the priest's life, defrock him, strip him of his faculties, and then maybe ask questions later. And I was friends with several good priests who literally said, our life is just one false accusation away from complete ruin, from complete destruction. And I wonder, and again, I don't have proof. I'm just throwing this out there to maybe explain. I don't know if somebody maybe tried to blackmail him and say, listen, we'll accuse you. Because priests do tend to back off if that card is played on them, because there's a lot of people that will falsely accuse a priest because they know that the Dallas Charter can basically get him out of their way. So I don't know if that came into play at all privately, like if somebody was maybe trying to, and I'm not saying he was guilty of anything, but what I'm saying is that's the thing of the Dallas Charter, is that even a priest who is innocent, if they anger their congregation or if they preach on something that people don't like, they can be falsely accused right out of their vocation. So oftentimes in situations like that, they will resign and kind of go away without much of a fight. So I don't know if that came into play at all, but that's something.
Yeah, because it is weird that he did have at least the public support of his bishop. Who knows what was going on behind closed doors? He had massive support from his parish. They made a whole website in support of him with a bunch of testimonials they had gathered. And who had against them was just a very loud minority, and they are loud. They were protesting outside of the church, and I'm sure there were a bunch of people in this church that were. I'm sure there was division, but for him to resign with all that support, and knowing full well that the church is going to continue to be divided over this issue, I'm sure parishioners have left and found another church by now. The ones who weren't happy with the resignation and the whole pressure campaign. So it is odd that the whole thing happened. But one thing that we as Catholics keep falling victim to is the fact that we don't have standards. And we don't seem to believe in holding fast to just some basic standards of just basic Catholic behavior. It starts with our president, right? Bishops not standing up and not doing anything the first time he ran for office and the time he ran for office in 2020 and was elected, that there's just no standards for being a Catholic, right? And it translates even down here to just elementary school, that we can't have a standard for a person who comes in and wants to read books to our children. We can't have a standard of who that person presents themselves in public. And I think it can't get any better if we don't just have basic standards about how a Catholic should be and how they should behave, and what should we allow in our school and what we shouldn't.
I mean, a priest has got to be able to do his job without having to resign for doing his job. I mean, the mob won on this one. I hate to say it. And
Now, David, were you able to ascertain? Did you ever see a picture of this priest? Because I couldn't find one. Was he an older gentleman, younger guy? I mean, just I'm assuming he was kind of an older guy. Maybe didn't want to fight the battle. I don't know. What did you find out?
Yeah, I did contact some of my connections in Saginaw, and I was trying to get Father Held on, to an interview. And so, from what I heard, he is an older man. He is not into technology at all, and so he did decline to come on to my podcast. Um, and so, but I also understood that he was a very faithful priest. He offered a very reverent liturgy, and there was already some pushback within the parish against him because he was quite traditional. So, so that'd be all I know about that.
Yeah, I saw some of that. One of the other interesting things about this story was that when I was reading about it in Catholic news in particular, I forget if it was CNA or whatever, it was very hard for me to discover the nature of the mob against him. CNA was kind of like keeping that under the rug for some reason. I was like, wait, he was pushed out by what? A mob that was pro gay, or a mob that thought he didn't do enough by stopping this Thrasher guy from letting
Right.
him in there. So I had to actually like do some digging. I had to read more like secular news media, and I'm like, okay, no, this mob was pro gay, and they didn't like his apology for allowing, unbeknownst to him, this gay guy in there. I think, especially CNA, who, I rely on for a lot of good, Catholic reporting.
Yeah.
They could have been a little clearer about that.
Yeah. So that was my under coverage, and I think I wish I had gotten more coverage. I wish I had known earlier on about that. And I thought that was one of the things I think we missed about the Coalition for Council Priests. I think we probably would have known about this whole thing sooner if they didn't have a mini implosion on the inside.